What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Coach Ken from Giving It a Try. It's been a couple weeks since we did one of these athlete talks, but on the coaching side of things, it's just been like really crazy, really busy. So we're going to jump on here with another short form content. I've had tons of notes I've just been throwing in my phone here, probably going to cover into the next couple videos. But we've also been making a lot of other content. If you go on the YouTube channel, I've been doing a lot of stuff with the little bike shop that I have set up and doing some flat tire stuff for my athletes. I also set up a new gym, which is going to be a lot of strength training stuff coming out as far as some content with that. So like everything, there's ups and downs of when certain things are more than others. As far as for myself, it's been a pretty crazy end of summer here, just with life, training, coaching, and all that stuff on top of that. But let's just jump into what we got going on because I really want to update everybody. It's week 35, 2025. It is flying through here. A lot of people getting towards, especially for the triathletes, the pinnacle of their training, if you will, these long weeks, these big weeks, these peak weeks. A lot of people have done for the marathons in the fall their threshold testing, identifying new zones for the next two plus months so we can really lock down their training. And a lot of people, majority, progressed forward. So they've done a better, faster threshold. Their body's able to push that limit a little bit. We readjust those zones, and now their training is going to be really dialed in going forward, and that's why we like to do that. With the marathon athletes, some of them, especially depending where they are and depending how much information I have for this marathon coming up, I'll put them through a mock 13.1 pacing plan through there. And it's not an all-out effort unless they have a 13.1 on the calendar that fits around that area. And if it's an actual race, I'll say, go send it. But there's no need to really send it 100, 105% in training like that. But really what it's meant for is I like to get more pacing data, being able to make sure that the zones that we have are accurate. So if I come up with what I believe you should be able to do in that range for the 13.1 and then you produce those results, it solidifies for both of us that we're on the right track with our pacing maybe for that marathon after we put in the rest of the work there. And really, it just gives me a lot more data to look at and a lot more. And it's a good confidence boost because if you're able to sub-maximally put in an effort like that for a 13.1 with a pacing plan from coach that he says, this is what I want you to run today, and then you go run it, it also builds a big confidence boost that we need between the athlete and the coach, and that's something that we need to carry on through the rest of the training there. So that's what we have going on with that. The other side of the threshold stuff is, again, if you want accurate heart rate data or if that's something you actually pay attention to, you got to wear the external strap. I had one or two. I just know right away when I get the data back. If I see a linear line of something of an effort and a heart rate is building throughout this entire 5K effort or race effort, yes, your heart rate will go up as your effort goes up. But if I see it go up and then it takes a drastic spike of 15 to 20 beats, that means something's off, or your watch lost connection with the skin or moved the watch. It just had a fault in the data, and then all of a sudden you see this big spike come back. So then unfortunately we have some inaccuracy with that, and that's why we fall back on pacing for flat courses and things like that, and why most of our training can, at least if we know where your threshold pace is, we can put you out there in a pace area for that type of terrain, and your heart rate should fall within that area. Then I keep an eye on that correlation between the heart rate and the pace as we go forward on that. So again, it's all about that mid-plan testing, trusting the process, validates the work you're doing, and don't be hard on yourself. I had an athlete that, he gives me awesome detailed information week to week on his running progress as he trains for his marathon. And, it was like picking apart all the things during his 13.1. But for me, which is great because I get to see that side of it, like what's going on mentally on your side of how that run went. Because that's one thing I don't know how you feel, and I don't know like the ins and outs of how every mile went. But what I do know is when the data showed up, he's like, take a look at it. I said, well, you slightly just beat my pacing plan and you did it perfectly. It was a negative split 13.1. I said, so kudos to you. You rocked out the pacing plan. Everything looked good. All's well on my end. And it was their fastest 13.1 in quite a few years even that they've logged, that split. So progressing in the right direction. But then unfortunately, they kind of picked it apart on their end. But we met in the middle. I think at the end of the day, they were really happy with how the day went. And I think that's just natural at the end of a run to think you could do better. You could have done all these things, but pull out on those efforts what you did good, what you did right, and a few lessons to learn for next time, because that's how we will get better overall on those things. with that being said, we got to keep consistent, smart training as we move forward from those efforts. You will get these mid-block fitness gains, which you're all seeing right now. You're all getting hyped up. Hopefully these little tests and data collection points are giving you some motivation, chomping at the bit for race day. But it's easy to start at this point in training to just start sending it. You had a good performance. I can run faster than I've been running. I should be running faster. Like, I feel comfortable, and just start going. We're at that fragile point, especially if you're an athlete who, say you're training for a marathon and you don't have 4, 5, 6, a dozen marathons under your belt in the last couple of years. If this is a newer distance to you for the first time in a few years, or the first time you're stepping up to a marathon distance, or the first time you're putting in a serious training block with a coach to see what your potential could be for this point, it's a fragile point, because we're trying to stress the body enough to build results without pushing over the edge, without that diminishing returns that we talk about, that peak, right? There's a certain point of your fitness level or training load where if we get to the top, it's optimal, but there's a heavy slide on the other side of it where if it begins to be too much volume, too much intensity without the proper structure, not only do you not gain fitness, is the propensity to get injured or have burnout on the other side of that. And that's no good. I would rather an athlete fall on the other side, not making it all the way up the hill in training, than showing up to the race fresh and having a good day, than putting all this work in, a couple weeks out. Maybe they overloaded themselves, peaked too early, and then fell flat on race day after all that hard work and that extra hard work that they thought was going to pay off. So just remember that. So that's my notes I made on peaking in your training, peaking for the race. Another thing to remember with this peaking is volume's building. This is for the Ironman athletes too. Volume is building week after week. What we need to do is then correlate that with, if you're having a good diet, good fueling, all day stuff outside of that, you're going to have to start to fuel more, not just because you're burning more calories intra-workout and you need to fuel more intra-workout, but your post-exercise burn, your metabolism is all ramping up through this. You need more recovery. You need more muscle recovery in between your workouts. Your workouts are getting longer and maybe not necessarily more frequent, but the volume of them. So you can have less time in between. Intensity, we're getting some race-specific efforts now in there, so that's a change. So even if your volume is the same as 3 weeks ago, your intensity might be going up, which is also increasing that post-exercise burn. So you got to make sure that if you're on a pretty balanced diet, pretty healthy, you're eating the right things, you might have to add a little bit more in, and that may be why you're starting to feel a little sluggish or fatigued as these peak weeks come up. As well, we want to curtail the inevitable. The immune system is just getting beat down. You are beating your body up every week, and the body just has a propensity to get sick before race day. Hopefully, if it happens, you get sick enough prior to recover to race. So these are the things to remember. If you're somebody who does get sick and you notice throughout the year, like you do have 3 or 4 of these bouts of being sick for a week or something like that, like pay attention to that. It could be rearing its ugly head in the back door. Pay attention to your recovery metrics. Pay attention to your sleep. More training, you're going to need a little extra sleep for recovery. Focus on the quality of your sleep. Focus on the other stress in your life. I know life is super stressed to begin with, but we have to try and curtail that stress as well as we're building this stress for the race. Because as we all know, as race day gets closer, a little bit of that race anxiety starts to build up, and it just starts building this little bit extra cortisol in the system that wrecks everything. So you got it. Again, this is a game. It's playing with all these different levels. It's not just, hey, what workouts do I got to do? I'm going to go do them and then go live my happy life afterwards. If you're somebody who, and I mean, if you, especially for the coach athletes, if you have a coach, I mean, you're pretty serious about your training, right? So we got to make sure we're going to ring out, like you're all in for this block of training. You're all in for this race. We need to be all in for it. You know, we can kind of live a little afterwards and rest for a little bit. But while you're in it, we got to be all in on it. And we got to make sure we get to the start line healthy, ready, motivated, and ready to rock, which is the last part of this. If you follow Lionel Sanders, who is a professional triathlete on his Instagram, he does some great videos right now. He's bringing this Red S, relative energy deficiency in sport, to light. I did a talk on this, I think last January. I never recorded it though, and it's something now that I'm going to probably bring out there in the next couple weeks. I'll make a video on it. I did a whole presentation on it, mental health and Red S in sport. And what it is relative energy deficiency in sport is if you're stressing the body and you're burning all this and you're doing all this and you 6-7 days a week, multiple sessions a day, especially for the Ironman athlete, just beating your body down and you're not fueling it to the level it needs to be, it will start to do things in your body to get you this energy, and things in a bad way. It'll start to stop regulating normal functions, hormonal functions in your body, and you'll have a lot of big issues. It starts to break your body down in order to try and get this energy that you need for all this activity. So if you're starting to notice this dip, this decline, that's when we really need to take a step back and look at our rest, recovery, all day fueling, making sure it's at the level that it needs to be for somebody that's working out 14, 15, 16 hours a week, doing, could be 12 to 15 sessions if you're counting your small brick runs and swims afterwards and things like that, on top of whatever it is that you do for work and whatever it is that you do for life outside of that, which is, again, mentally and physically taxing as well. So it is something I want to be brought to light in case any of you may have had some of the symptoms of that in the past, even maybe through prior training blocks, and it's something to think about. So I'll try and get that out there within the next week or two. Again, things are ramping up here, but I do have some extra time. I have some things going on for myself here, which slowed things down a little bit. I don't want to get into it on this athlete talk because this is for the athletes out there, but I'll probably do a long form podcast sometime in the next week, kind of update you all on what I've been at this summer, kind of what I'm focusing on, what I have going on my end, and some lessons learned through all that, because that's what this is all about. And some exciting news coming for the coached athletes and the coaching app for the Giving It a Try community, coming out maybe today or tomorrow. So peek an eye out there, and then we'll go public with that, short after that. I like to make sure the athletes get the ins and the outs on what's going on first. So there we have it for today. I mean, week 35, we're back at it. We're back filming and all that. We're back just putting film and content out there. We have tons of marathons coming up, half Ironman still. It's going to be a wild next 12 weeks around here. Like a lot of big things, a lot of people looking to put some awesome numbers up there, and or just having good results. Like just them versus them, athlete versus athlete, them versus last year, just trying to better themselves and move forward in the process here. So again, everybody, just stay safe, stay healthy, keep balancing life 1 mile at a time, and I will catch you on the next one.